So here we go. Lemon stood on the busy street corner. The city lights had just kicked on hardly 10 minutes ago as dusk began to creep into the darkness of another summer evening. The warm weather brought tourists, and tourists flushed out local talent. As always, Lemon was looking for a particular kind of talent, street magic. He watched intently as a street performer produced a deck of cards. Excuse me. The man began with flourishing the cards, moving them in his hands in a hypnotic fashion. Lemon knew this skill well, cardistry, his hand hugging a deck of cards in his pocket. The performer continued, calling the attention of the growing crowd with a booming voice. I am the great Vicini. Vicini? I'm going to say Vicini, but it might be Vicini. I don't know. If you're so great, why are you on the street every Tuesday? Challenged Lemon under his breath. Although tourists meant every day was a busy day, the weekends were always the most lucrative. This guy was not good enough to bully his way into a prime location like this on a Friday, already off to a bad start. The great Vicini had already chosen a victim. You there, lovely lady in the blue shirt, come pick a card. The woman seemed to shrink into herself before stepping forward. Do not fear the cards, let them speak to you. Pick the one that is begging to be chosen. Even more alienated, the woman timidly reached forward and snatched a card. Do not show me the card. Pick 3 people and show it to them, Vicini demanded. He waited while she quickly showed the card to the people standing closest to her. Lemon noted the uncomfortable energy Vicini created, another bad mark. Splitting the deck in half, the performer started again. Now place the card back in the deck, and I shall now shuffle it so it will not be found with cheap trickery. Lemon cringed at the statement. After the woman did as instructed, the great Vicini began to shuffle the deck in the same fancy method as earlier. Lemon grinned. This was his favorite part of any act he watched, the test of talent. Gathering up the cards back into a neat pile, Vicini cut the deck once more. Is this your card? The great Vicini revealed the top card. The woman tried to hold back her disappointment. She shook her head. Vicini's heart visibly sank as he produced another card. Was it this one? As the woman responded no, the crowd began to shrink. Lemon debated his next move. He could rescue the failing artist or sink him completely. It was a more dilemma he faced every time it came to this. The important factors were evident, though. The great Vicini did not receive a passing grade. Lemon knew what he needed to do. Standing solemn and silent as the Grim Reaper, Lemon continued to watch as the desperate man asked one last time if he had the right card. The woman sighed with irritation. It was the 5 of clubs. She then walked away. At this point, the crowd had dissipated, and only a few onlookers remained. Gluttons for the failure of others, like vultures to carrion. Now it was Lemon's turn. Stepping up to the not-so-great Vicini, he smiled. Is it in the deck? What do you mean, is it in the deck, boy? Of course it's in the deck. I clearly just botched the trick, Vicini sputtered angrily. You should check, suggested Lemon coolly. Vicini raised an eyebrow before hesitantly flipping the deck. He fanned the cards as he looked through each one. Confused, he looked up. It's not here. I know, because I have it. That's impossible. I watched her put the card back in the deck. Vicini began, counting the deck. 51? Asked Lemon, as coy as a fox. Vicini dropped his card, which loftily floated to the ground. 51, but how? Lemon shrugged. Because you're a terrible magician, that's how. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his own deck of cards. The tuck box was a colorful design of blues and greens, and the cards that were produced from it echoed the same swirling colors. Performing his own flourishes, Lemon seemed to almost sprout 2 extra hands in the impossible card handling. With the impossible card handling. Vicini was awestruck, having never seen such cardistry. Shuffling the cards back together into one hand, the card on the top did not have the same back as the rest of the deck. In fact, it looked like Vicini's cards, a classic red and white bicycle playing card. Lemon split the deck and slapped the bottom half onto the top, sandwiching the top card. Pointing at one of the stragglers, Lemon quietly asked, Sir, can you please remove your hat? Taking the baseball cap from his head, the man looked inside and gasped. There was the top card Lemon had just buried into the deck. The man held it up and turned it over, the face of the card shocking the handful of spectators into clapping. The 5 of clubs. Vicini was speechless, and Lemon fanned out his deck, showing that the red card had disappeared from his hand. The man returned the card to Vicini and meandered down the sidewalk, still trying to comprehend what he had just seen. How? Vicini stared at the card in his hand. True magic is not forced. Find a new trade, Lemon smiled. He walked away while Vicini began to clean up the cards from the ground, muttering to himself in disbelief. Lemon knew his work here was done. Okay. So that is the story. No, I don't think it's a short story. In fact, Jamal, I'm pretty sure I was present when she wrote this story. It was one of the Thursdays that we met together to do the hour-long sort of writing. Um, we used to meet on Thursdays for an hour and write together. We would be provided a prompt, but one Thursday, Nova decided to write her own thing, and this is what came out, and she actually read it to the group. So it's pretty impressive that she wrote this sort of on the spot. But I don't know why she didn't edit it more before submitting it to the group. I mean, what did you think of the story? I mean, I've got issues with it as far as, you know, a polished sort of short story that's up for critique by the group. You know, the first question that sort of comes to my mind after reading this is, you know, what was the objective of the story? I'm not really sure what Nova was hoping for people to sort of get out of this. I mean, it's sort of a nifty little story, I suppose, about, you know, a magician working on a street corner. But when you break it down into plot, I think that's when you start to realize sort of things are a little bit hollow. Because, I mean, what really happens? A magician is on a street corner, he fails at a trick, and some other guy comes up and says, basically, you suck, shows him why, and walks away. It's... I mean, where's the conflict, really? There's implied conflict, I guess, between sort of, you know, the magician Lemon and this Vicini character, where Lemon is you know, looking down at him and being pretty judgmental. I don't know. It just feels like there's something missing in this. Maybe it's a climax, or I mean, you could argue that the climax is the moment that the trick is revealed, trying to find the card, but it just it didn't feel like What did you think, Jamal? Did you find the story fulfilling? Did you feel satisfied by the time you finished it, or did you feel that maybe there was something missing? And maybe just while you're answering, I'm going to bring up just one other point. There's quite a lot of reliance on what I call instructional imagery in this story. And it's actually a similar problem that I kind of brought up in the last story that Philip had written about the you know, the Elizabethan era and the boys who dress up as women to perform in the Shakespearean plays. And I was saying to him that I thought it wasn't the most entertaining part of reading is reading, you know, about, like, he was put a lot of, like, stage direction into the piece, as far as, like, you know, a character is just telling other characters about how things are going to look on stage, and it was very like I was saying, it's very instructional. I just don't think that kind of stuff translates well to story writing. It's not entertaining to read. And in this story, there's quite a lot of that, talking about, you know, moving hands and doing things with the cards. I mean, you could watch a really, really cool magic trick on the internet in a video or something and be totally blown away and really entertained. But just because something appeals to the eye, I don't think it necessarily means that it would appeal to the imagination. And this is one of those instances where a magic trick is not going to be interesting in a story. I think part of that is because there's no magic, right? I mean, you could write anything in a short story about magic and just have it work out. There's no skill to a card trick in a story. So I don't know. I had But let's focus on some positives for a second. You don't want to. It's not as if it was all. There's some stuff that I liked in here. First of all, I like the name Lemon. I kind of like. I think it's an original name. I don't think I've ever read a story with a character named Lemon. Although there's definitely a term lemon, and someone who's a lemon is someone who's not very good. So I don't know if that was intentional in the story to kind of mislead the reader, or if it was just ironic, but anyway, I like the name though. Oh, Jamal, you're saying a few things here. Jamal says, I think it's good to start something bigger. Yeah, there was no emotional payoff at the end. If the story was a highly condemned flash fiction focused on a magician working on the street corner, but Nova seemingly sets us up for something bigger. She makes Lemon seem more important than he really is. Why is Lemon even there? We're told that Lemon's looking for other street performers. Why? This was something that I thought Nova would explore more, but she just lets this plot point drop. The story seems much ado about nothing. I also agree with the overall instructional stage direction. It was quite boring to read. There was also a lot of redundant description in these stage directions that took me out of the story. Yeah, it just distracts from the plot. It's important to know what the hell matters in a story. I mean, you could spend 50 pages talking about the weather, but unless it pertains to the story, then what the hell's the point? You're just distracting from the things that really matter. And then, that raises the bigger question. I mean, what in this story really matters? What are we really supposed to be paying attention to for the entertainment's sake? And I just don't know the answer to that question. Other than, I guess there's irony that he can't do the trick and Lemon can, but we're never really on the edge of our seat about that. It would be more interesting, I guess, if Lemon stepped up and tried to show him up and he actually couldn't. Because the whole time we're reading the story, we're expecting Lemon to be some kind of magic master or what have you. So you had a few points here, Jamal. There's no emotional payoff at the end. That's a really good point. I completely agree. And in fact, the emotion I have at the end is kind of repulsive. It's just this Lemon guy just looks like an asshole from beginning to end. That was something that we can kind of jump back to, but I did write down characters have no depth or transformation. There's no change in that regard, and I think that has a huge impact on the way a reader is going to feel about the end of a story. Nothing's changed in the characters, then what was the point? That's the whole reason we read stories is to watch things change and things be affected, like a butterfly effect kind of thing. So if those elements of a story are missing, people are going to leave it feeling kind of like, what the hell did I just see? What was the point? Or read, I guess. I'm thinking like movies even, but it's all kind of the same thing. Nova seemingly sets us up for something bigger. I don't know. Maybe she is. She's not here to tell us. But I don't see a chapter 1 on here. And usually if somebody's working on a project, they put chapter 1. So I think it's fair to assume that this is just a short story. I mean, I did call out for stories because we were running low on stuff to critique. So this might be why she sent it in. Maybe she was just trying to help out the group for us to look at something. I don't think it's a longer project. She makes Lemon seem more important than he really is. Why is Lemon out even there? We're told that Lemon is looking for other street performers. Why? Yeah, I think he's literally just hunting for people to make look stupid. He didn't teach this magician anything at all. True magic is not forced. Find a new trade. Basically says, you suck, get a new job, and just walks away. Lemon knew his work here was done. He's just a dick. He's a complete asshole. Yeah, the characters aren't sympathetic either. We don't have to like your characters, but we should understand their incentives and what motivates them to act. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's great characters that are villains. I mean, sometimes it's more interesting to read a villain than a hero. But, like you say, you got to know the incentives and what motivates them. Otherwise, it just seems like, pointless villainy. And that's kind of what's going on with Lemon here. He just destroyed some guy. I mean, he's a street performer. So clearly that's his job. He's working there in the week. This guy does not have a 9 to 5. He's busting his ass out in front of all these people, and then this guy just comes up and makes him look like a total idiot. And the people walk away from him. The guy's struggling. So, you really need to empathize with your own characters, I think, when you're trying to write good fiction. Because it's going to have an impact on how you write the story. I feel like this was something that maybe, well, I don't know. I don't like poking too many holes in the story without Nova here to defend herself and provide her own incentives for what she was doing when she was writing the story. But I really do wonder what she was going for in this. Let's see what else is here. Also agree with the overall instructional stage direction. Yeah, it is boring and it does take you out of it to just sort of have that stuff. I mean, is there even an inciting incident in this story? If you had to say there was an inciting incident, it would be when Lemon sort of spotted this other magician character, and he's going in with, ill intent. Although it doesn't really. I mean, actually, okay, maybe it's this line here. The great Vicini had already chosen a victim. You there, lovely lady in the blue shirt, come pick a card. That smells like inciting incident. If I had to pick something. There's potential conflict there. Maybe Lemon is ridiculing street performers because he's self-apathetic and sees himself in their struggle to earn a living. I mean, that's a thematic approach. I really think every story needs to have some angle of irony. That's usually what ties things together. There's nothing ironic going on here. It's just kind of cruel. So, if we went with your angle, Jamal, so Lemon is ridiculing street performers because he is self-apathetic and sees himself in their struggle to earn a living. So you could do something with the plot where, his actions, he does what he does, and then maybe it's directly reflected in another incident, directly after, where it shows maybe where he's come from and what he's trying to teach these people. Although, I don't know, man. I talk a lot about something called organic conflict, and I really think it's important for writing stories. I mean, there should be conflict baked into the story just because characters exist. I just don't think that this story really has organic conflict. Characters are just being forced, to butt heads in this story. There's no backstory to Vicini. There's no backstory to Lemon. I don't know. I don't like being a dick. I don't like ripping apart stories too hard, and not being constructive enough. But I really think there's an issue with conflict in this. Let me see what else I've got here. Okay, I was gonna say some good stuff, and I just want to say that first before we continue. I don't want to make it sound like there's absolutely nothing redeemable in this, because that's just not true. There's some good dialogue, actually. I thought some of the dialogue was pretty good. One of the lines here: "Do not fear the cards, let them speak to you, pick the one that is begging to be chosen." I thought that line was pretty good, actually. Okay, there's another line here. Standing solemn and silent as the Grim Reaper, Lemon continued to watch as the desperate man asked one last time if he had the right card. I don't know if this was intentional, but I feel like that Grim Reaper simile is actually kind of like a bit of foreshadow. Where the Grim Reaper sort of decides whether or not to take lives, or, I mean, he does take lives. If you're dead, he's going to show up, he's going to take your soul. Maybe that's sort of intentionally comparing to Lemon as a character that it's foreshadowing Lemon taking, this magician's credibility away, sort of thing. He really sort of makes him look dumb in front of everyone, and it doesn't feel like he's going to be back on that corner anytime soon doing tricks. So I thought that was clever in a way. I think that it could be done a little bit better, but I like where the thought process was, assuming this is what she intended, and I feel like it was. I thought it was a good idea. You don't think the Grim Reaper analogy is cliche? No, I don't, actually. Just because of the way it was used. That's what I talk about sometimes in these sessions about cliche or similes, like how to write a proper simile. And in my opinion, this is an example of someone writing a proper simile, or at least using it to its full extent. Let me just show where I'm talking about here. Sorry, I should be better with this. So here, comparing Lemon to the Grim Reaper and seeing where the story goes, deciding whether or not Lemon will, determine the fate of this other character. I think it's pretty good. I like some of her description as well. Yeah, I did. Some of it was cliche. Some of it was. In the first line here, the city lights had just kicked on hardly 10 minutes ago as dusk began to creep into the darkness of another summer evening. This whole bit is cliche. I would find a whole other way to say that, and I don't see the reason of saying this at all. I would not have put that in. Had just kicked on hardly 10 minutes ago. Oops, we also want this gone. I don't see what that does for the story. How does that... They had just kicked on as dusk began to creep, but saying they had just kicked on hardly 10 minutes ago, that is not just kicked on. That's 10 minutes ago. So it's going to be one or the other. And I think that at no point in the story do we need to know that the lights had just kicked on 10 minutes ago, nor were they ever really referenced again in the rest of the story. These are all details that as a reader we pretty quickly forget about. And it makes me wonder if it should even be there at all. It really just seems to be setting the scene in a way that could be made more original so that it stays in the reader's mind. What do you think about that, Jamal? Would you agree with that, or just let me know? There's a few people in the chat here. Is anyone here from the Writing Around group, or are these people trickling in from the YouTube community? For anyone who's just popping in, we're critiquing. So I run a group on Facebook called Writing Around, and people are allowed to submit their own creative writing. And then as a group, we'll sit down, do a live show, and actually go through the story. We'll read it together, and we'll critique it. Pretty straightforward. Oh, Philip's here. Hey, Philip. Shit. Philip, did you read the story this week? Because we've already read the story together. Hey, Fong. I haven't seen you in a while. You did. Okay. Let's jump back a little bit. Me and Jamal have already talked about a few things. Let me just hear from you and Fong. What do you think? Just give me. What did you think of the story? How did it make you feel reading it? Me and Jamal were saying that we left a little bit. I have to quickly read the story. Okay, that's okay. I'm here, but I'm trying to finish up work while listening. I think I had the time wrong. Thought we were starting in 20 minutes. Okay, that is partly my fault, Bernadine. By the way, welcome. Jamal corrected me the last time. I think it was Jamal that I put Atlantic Standard Time, which would be 8 o'clock my time. But I'm actually supposed to put Atlantic Daylight Time, which would be 7 o'clock my time, which was the time that I'm aiming for. So it's going to avoid confusion moving forward, these are always going to be at the same time unless we decide as a group that we want to shift the time. So 40 minutes ago, whatever time it is for you, That's when these are starting, on Mondays and Thursdays every week. And the nice thing about YouTube is I can actually set a schedule for live videos. So if you subscribe to the page or the YouTube channel, then you'll get a notification or a reminder or whatever about live showings. It'll make life a little bit easier on everyone, I think. Because not everyone sees the Facebook posts. I don't think it always shows up in the feed correctly. I try to put things in like the announcement tab for the group, but I don't know. It seems like a bit of a pain in the butt sometimes. That's why I started the Twitter, but I don't think the Twitter works very well either. Is this a short story, a part of something longer? Philip, I'm pretty sure it's a short story. I was telling Jamal earlier that Nova actually wrote this when we were in like one of those hour-long writing prompt sessions that we were doing for a bit. We kind of stopped doing it because people didn't seem very interested. But she sat there and wrote this in an hour with a few of us sitting around writing together. So I'm pretty sure it's just a short story. She was saying in the group a couple days ago, I think, maybe it was yesterday, that she's been having trouble finding time to write. So I'm pretty sure it's a short story. We could start a Discord, but I don't know if the group would be comfortable using it. We could use a Discord. Who here has used Discord before? Are you talking about right now to talk about this, or Discord for like an hour-long writing together sort of thing? Philip, you thought it was in 20 minutes too. All right, let's consult Google here for a second. Current ADT. No, I did get it right. 7:41. So yeah, Atlantic Daylight Time. Fuck, I haven't used Discord before, no idea what it means. It's kind of like, yeah, I wondered if Discord was going to be a little bit foreign to people. But for people who are comfortable using Discord, we could even run a Discord chat while I'm doing these live streams, and people can kind of talk a little bit more openly about the story instead of just listening to my voice. I think it'd be a little bit more enjoyable for people if you could hear somebody else's voice but mine the whole time. Jamal, we should talk about that after the stream, about a potential Discord. I don't think I've ever actually set up a Discord server before. I'll see if I can get something like that, kind of get the ball rolling on it. Okay, let's jump back to the story here. So Feng is reading. Philip's already read it. Bernadine's kind of doing the best she can. She's doing a bit of work. Let's just jump back for a second. This is something me and Jamal already talked about, but I just want to ask you guys. We're talking about something called instructional imagery in the story. For those of you that were with us last time doing Philip's story, actually, I kind of had a similar note about his story where quite a lot of the story was focused on sort of scene direction of certain characters and on-stage movements that really didn't pertain to the plot, didn't pertain to tension. It just kind of seemed there for the sake of educating the reader on these sort of instruction-based sequences. And I kind of made the argument that I don't think that those sorts of anecdotes benefit the story. They don't benefit the reader unless they're, detrimental or pivotal to the plot, which I think a lot of the time they aren't. I just think they're better off being removed. I made the, I was just saying earlier that, because something appeals to the eye. So seeing movements in a video, or in this case, like a magician trick that you might watch in a video on YouTube or something, just because it's cool to watch doesn't mean it's going to be cool to read about. And I just think it's important to remember that. And I wondered if some of you guys felt the same way when you read this story, that there was a lot of, of that instructional imagery that detracted or distracted you from what was going on in the story. Because I know personally, I find it just distracts me. And I was saying last time with Philip's story that I used to write quite a lot of that stuff because I used to really like writing action stories, and I would dedicate a large portion of the text to describing like gunfights or fist fights, jumping out of windows and stuff like that. That I thought, this is so cool. This is so cool because as you're writing it in your head, it's like a movie. You're seeing things better than anyone else will ever see, or at least more originally. But when you're on the other end and you're receiving the information, you're reading the text, you want to make sure that things are always as exciting and sort of on the nose as possible. Otherwise, people will get bored. Did you guys feel that way when you read it? Did you find that stuff was a little bit too much in the story, or did you find that it didn't really bother you? That you didn't really notice it? I missed in Philip's story, so sorry. It's okay. We know you're in Australia, so honestly, I'm always pretty amazed when you're here. Let me just pull the story back up here. Just trying to think of, show an example of what I'm talking about. Splitting that in half. Shuffle the deck again. Gathering up the cards. Revealed the top card. Produced another card. This one's pretty clean. It's 2 a.m. for you, Philip. I think it was 2 a.m. for Philip when we wrapped up the last time. So it's probably, was it like close to midnight for you, or 11 o'clock? Still pretty late to be doing this stuff. But I definitely appreciate you being here. Thought it was clearly written, although I had lots of questions. This is Philip talking. I had lots of questions about Lemon. Unusual name, and if this is self-contained story, then backstory and motivations are left unexplained. Yeah, me and Jamal talked about that, actually. I kind of like the name Lemon, just because it is kind of unusual. I like unusual names in stories. It just adds a bit of flavor, I find. But you're right. There's no backstory. We know nothing about these characters other than what's presented to us. Now, I'm usually super okay with that. In fact, I usually prefer that. I don't like the text going into a bunch of backstory before getting to like what we really want to see. But the best way to do it is to sort of, like I always say, drip feed information through the story and fill people in on what sort of happened by speaking in the present. But in this story, it's really just focused on what's going on in this magic trick. Lemon shows him up and then he walks away, and he's basically ruined this man's life. More or less, or at least ruined his dreams. And that's really all we know. Motivations are left unexplained. Another great point. Why the hell is this Lemon guy so incentivized to destroy this other man's life, or destroy his hopes of being some kind of magician? This Vicini character seems pretty... he has a way of speaking that would make you think that this is not his first time being out there. It would actually kind of make you like, what do you mean? Is it in this deck, boy? Of course it's in this deck. Like, it's just this big booming sort of personality that you would think would belong to someone that's pretty well veteraned as a street performing magician, but they can't even do one trick. So I don't know. I was saying earlier, like, I don't want to be a jerk about this story. There are things that me and Jamal both liked about it. There's descriptions in this that are pretty good. I was saying I liked the simile with the Grim Reaper. I thought it had this element of like foreshadow that felt intentional, that I quite liked. I like the name Lemon. But this is a very short story. We've got the 1,500 word limit, and this isn't even, this is 925 words long. So it's fairly short, and it doesn't really focus on any sort of conflict, which is a major issue. I was also saying that the story lacks irony. And irony is really important in short stories, I find. If there's no irony to sort of wrap it up, people will walk away feeling like something's missing. There's nothing ironic about this story. Everything happens as we expect it to. We started at midnight my time on the last session. Wow, Philip, jeez. Yeah, it is late. If you're in the UK, there was someone else that I was talking to in the UK about writing stuff, and yeah, you guys are, well, you'd be, what, 4 hours ahead? It would have been 8 o'clock, I think. You started with this last time. 4 or 5 hours. I would love to understand Lemon's feeling. Yeah, he just seems like a jerk, and I just wish that there was another side to it. I don't I don't think that a character has to be necessarily likable to be a good character. I was saying earlier, villains are great characters. I love reading about the bad guy, but you got to know why the bad guy's doing what they're doing. Otherwise, it just seems pointless, and you can't. I mean, it's always best when you can empathize with the villain just a little bit. The street performer was a bit too inept, perhaps. I'm not sure what you mean, Philip. I think I just don't know what the word inept means. Let me just Google that real quick. Having her showing no skill, clumsy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, he sucks. He's a terrible magician. He can't do one trick. He gathers all these people. He's yelling at people in the street to come watch me do magic, and then he balls it up. And Lemon okay. This is the other thing that it just. Why is Lemon so good that he's able to steal a card from someone who's standing way ahead of him and then put it in the hat of another character without even telling us how he's doing it? Like, it's totally unbelievable. Like, it made me wonder if this Lemon guy is magic. Like, how else could he be doing these things? Because he would say something to himself, or we would know that he's doing something to move these cards, right? I mean, magicians aren't actually magic. It's an illusion. You know, it's sleight of hand and distracting the person who's watching and doing something else. Like, that's what magic is. So if he's not doing those things that we can see, like he's not thinking about it, then the only explanation is that this Lemon character is magic. And that just seems like kind of like a cop-out. And it's not even explained. It's not built on. He just does magic to make people look stupid on the street, and then he walks away. And he literally says, Lemon knew his work here was done. What an asshole. Internalize, even if it's a sentence thrown in the beginning. Or even Vicini's emotion, whether he's nervous. Yeah, I agree, Fung. I do. I think Vicini is way more interesting. This is Jamal talking. I think Vicini is way more interesting of a character than Lemon, but it seems like Lemon is supposed to be the protagonist in this story. I was impressed by Lemon's card trick, though. Even if he did it to humiliate Vicini, it felt very David Blaine-ish. See, I just wasn't impressed by his card trick, Jamal, because there was no effort as far as, like, the writer, like Nova. Like, things just happen. Nothing's explained. Like, I could say anything in a story that I could do anything like this in a story and never explain it. And you know what I mean? It just doesn't. There's no flex here. There's no forethought. It just it's an issue. I thought the only reason he couldn't do the trick was because Lemon intervened. And that might be the case. But we don't even know. That's another thing that we don't know. It's kind of implied, but we couldn't say for certain. Because again, like we don't know how Lemon is doing any of these things. I like the girl in the blue t-shirt, the reluctant member of the crowd who gets called upon. I am a night owl, so it doesn't bother me much. You like the girl in the blue t-shirt. Why? I mean, pretty flat character. I mean, I guess she was nervous and reluctant, and then she sort of gets this courage built up by the end of it. She just walks away. she's actually mad by the end of it. Side with irritation, as opposed to the woman seemed to shrink into herself before stepping forward, which is maybe kind of disbelievable or unbelievable rather. Sorry. A woman who's this nervous in like 30 seconds is like sighing with irritation, and it was a 5 of clubs, and then just walking away from people. Like, I don't think someone who's that nervous would react like that publicly. I wouldn't. I'm a pretty nervous person. I would not act that way even if I was annoyed in front of a bunch of people in public. I don't think that would happen, but I thought the only reason he couldn't do the trick was because Lemon intervened because he's truly magic, Bernadine said. Yeah, I feel like there's no real other like explanation other than him actually being a magical character. There's no other explanation that I see. I thought Lemon was really... Oh, Philip said the same thing. I thought Lemon was really supposed to be magic. That's what he said in the last line. That's what he said in the last line. True magic is not forced. Find a new trade. See, okay. When I read that, I thought they were talking about like true magic, like being a magician, because that word is thrown around quite a lot in this story. But maybe you're right. Maybe that is what Nova was saying. True magic is not forced. Find a new trade, and he's actually talking that he can actually produce real magic, as opposed to someone who's just, you know, throwing cards around on the street. But if he's actually magic, well, okay. I was gonna say maybe if he's actually magic, then why would he know so much about card magic? You wouldn't even need to know about card magic, because he could just do everything on his own with real magic. Lemon is obviously a stronger magician, says Fong. Yeah, well, we're starting to think that he's a real magician. Like he can actually do real magic, like Harry Potter shit. Jamal says that's why I would love to ask Nova what she intended for this story. Yeah, I mean, it would clear up some questions. I feel like she just kind of wrote this for fun. Like, it's not supposed to be taken seriously. I think she just was trying to give us some writing to look at, because I asked people to send in writing because we're getting low. So I don't want to be too much of an asshole. She was just trying to like do something nice for the group. And there is something here that we can look at and talk about, and that's what we need. So I feel like it's not supposed to be taken all that seriously. So, but there's still things here that are relevant to all of us as writers, and I think it's still worth, you know, critiquing and talking about, especially when it comes down to things like plot and conflict. This whole, you know, instructional imagery thing seems to be repeating a bit. I think that's really important to think about when you're writing. You know, discussing what we want readers to feel or think kind of at the end of our stories. I mean, confusion is good in a way. You want people... Well, no, I take that back. Confusion is bad, but having questions is good. You want people to have questions and want to know the answer to something, but you don't want them just to kind of throw up their hands and say, what the hell is going on, and not really be given an answer. Although Bernadine's kind of starting to convince me here with this last line. Maybe that is what she was saying. True magic is not forced. Okay, Philip says, the idea of a member of a crowd who gets called upon, someone people really hate that, so it shows magician can't read his audience. I'm not sure what you're saying, Philip. Let me see. The idea of a member of a crowd who gets called upon, someone people really hate that, so should... Oh. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So he's kind of ignorant. Or he's not very good at reading people, to try and ask someone to come up on, you know, and work with him that doesn't want to be called upon. Are you saying that's something that could be worked into the plot, or are you just sort of dissecting? Jamal says, I think a truly magical lemon would be a cool idea to explore more. Well, it raises the bigger question of if there's magic going on in a story, then there's magic going on in the world, and how does that affect the world that the author's building? There's always going to be consequences to magic in some way, shape, or form, right? Unless this guy is the only person in the whole world, he can conduct magic, and he can just get whatever he wants, he can do whatever he wants. But then that brings back to what I was saying. I mean, there's no organic conflict in that idea. It needs to be like organic conflict. Actually, like the blue shirt lady, the reason is there must be personal attraction. Outside, Vizzini is bold, but deep down, he isn't that confident. That's an interesting point, Fung. That is all. I mean, I was talking about irony before. I mean, that is a bit ironic. That she starts out, nervous, and then she winds up being pretty bold, and he kind of does the opposite. And he sort of retreats back into himself by the end. Dropped his cards. Awestruck. Speechless. Although he doesn't really seem, he just seems more embarrassed or awestruck, I think, is probably by the end of it. And this other guy just sort of walks away, muttering to himself in disbelief. So I guess he doesn't really get like nervous, or he's just kind of blown away, and he never really comes around. I see both characters grow. There's definitely a character arc in Vizzini. Well, there is. Although, is there really? Because he doesn't change as a character. He's like blown away. I mean, if you wrote a story where someone punches someone in the face, you wouldn't say their bruise is character development. You know what I mean? It's just sort of a reaction, and I feel like that's what's going on with Vizzini. It's just a reaction. He doesn't even really say anything. Just how. How? That's impossible. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really amount to anything. But a card magic scene might not be the most interesting way to introduce us to Lemon's magical abilities. I completely agree, because it does hinge too much on this whole instructional imagery thing. I don't think any sort of illusionary sort of thing is going to really bend well to writing unless you're writing about the life of a magician. You know what I mean? Like, if you went to like a magic show in Las Vegas, you wouldn't write that down. You'd just watch it. You wouldn't write a story just based on, you know what I mean? It just doesn't work well in writing. So yeah, I agree, Jamal. A card magic scene is probably never really going to work on paper unless it mostly just focuses on the characters. Bernadine, maybe he's annoyed with magicians like a real vampire would be pissed if he stumbled upon a Halloween party and found someone walking around saying, I want to drink. That reminds me, wait, yeah, that's an episode of SpongeBob where the Flying Dutchman is mad at a Halloween party because everybody always dresses like the Dutchman, and then SpongeBob like shaves his head off and he's got his brain out. He scares the Dutchman and he flies away. Yes, I watched SpongeBob. Yes, I'm 30. I don't care. Maybe Bernadine, maybe, but we don't know, right? And he doesn't seem as mad at that character as he does he just comes off like an asshole. I don't really see how you could empathize with Lemon in any way. It just, true magic is not forced. Find a new trade. Like, he's even kind of hinting to the guy that he can do magic. Like, fuck you, I can do magic. Like, get out of here. Find a new job. Like, he's just kind of an asshole from start to finish. Fong, anyone watch the movie Prestige? I love this movie. Have I watched this? Let's see. Prestige. The Prestige? I don't think. Oh, Christian Bale. Christian Bale is awesome. Hugh Jackman's pretty good too. Actually, it's a great cast here. No, I've never heard of that movie. I agree with the potential character arc for Vincini Fung. Yeah. I could imagine the story continuing with Lemon being a member of an underground Harry Potter style magical society. This is Philip speaking. Perhaps Lemon is a bit of an outcast in that world, so he goes and messes around with muggles trying to perform magic. That would be cool. That's got like Lucifer vibes, that idea, Philip. Like the angel outcast from heaven fucking with the mortals. That would be an interesting sort of angle to take with a story. Someone should write that. I don't really write fantasy, but that would be an awesome way to write a character, is to mirror sort of that Lucifer angle. I don't think Vizzini has a fully fleshed out arc, but there's something there to build on, says Jamal. Fung, I can see Vizzini learning more magic and understands himself, his self-expression over time if it was a longer story. See, we can always say, you know, things could be fixed if it was a longer story. But I don't think that as it stands, this is a functional idea. What if you were going to take this story? Actually, this is okay. I want you guys to try and do this. This is a good exercise. I want you to write in one sentence the pitch for this story. If I'm some guy who's going to publish a story for you and you're trying to tell me the story you're going to write, how would you pitch this to me in one line, you know, to sell the idea? Like, I don't think there's a way to do it, but see if you can do it. I got to plug in the iPad so it doesn't die. Give me 1 second. Bernadine. I don't watch SpongeBob, but I hear it's highly intellectual. I'm not sure that describes it. I mean, it's a children's cartoon, right? He shreds the guy. He shreds the guy. I'm not sure you're talking about Bernadine. Jamal, I was hoping that Lemon would act as a mentor to Vizzini. The old SpongeBob was fantastic. The new one, not so much. Yeah, the new SpongeBob sucks. Let me talk about that for a second. All right? I'm going to tell you why the new SpongeBob sucks. And it's because the new writers don't understand the show. They don't get the humor. They don't understand why adults found it was funny. And it's because Patrick and SpongeBob were stupid and everybody else was like a genuine sort of empathetic adult. Like as far as like as the audience can empathize with them. That's why they're always short with SpongeBob and Patrick. Um, some of the characters are silly, but they're still adults and they act like adults. But in the new show, they don't address that conflict. That's when I talk about organic conflict. That's what that show was built on, and they just ignored it and they didn't get it when they started writing after the third season. Into the fourth season is when the new writers took over. The show was canceled. Hillenberg didn't want it to continue. I think he just was like, we've written all that there is to write about it. Nickelodeon wanted to keep writing it because a ton of money in that show. But anyway, that's why the new SpongeBob sucks. Totally agree. I could see Lemon change too. Fong pitch. The greatest magician of the century. So here's why I would say that like there's no conflict in that, right? I appreciate you trying, but like if you were gonna pitch something, they need to understand the conflict. You might not even know like the setting of a story, but if you know the conflict, you still can work with it, right? Like, let me just make an example here. You could write a story that's set in the year 3000, right? I mean, sounds cool, but it's going to take some work to figure out what the hell the story's going to be about. But if you said, I want to write a story about an alcoholic man and his wife, dealing with that, and they're just dealing with it, and you could set that story at any time period. You have a lot of flexibility with that idea because you already have the conflict. It doesn't even have to be man and woman. It could be two women, it could be two men, it could be children, it could be elders. It doesn't, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of flexibility, and you can work around the conflict to make it as strong as possible. If you write the story about two 90-year-olds dealing with alcoholism and potentially, destroying their marriage, compared to two 18-year-olds going through the same thing, two very different stories. Even if at the core of it, it's still the same. I hope I explained that correctly. But what I'm trying to say is that always base things off of your sorry. Always base things off your conflict. It's far more important. Jamal, there isn't a way to do that because writing a catchy pitch for this story would probably require us to embellish the plot a bit. Why? Because there's no clear conflict or story. That is correct, Jamal. It wasn't a trick question. I wasn't trying to trick people, but Jamal is correct, and it would be. I mean, it's okay to embrace or embellish the plot if you like. If I was going to do it, what would I say? A street magician is performing a trick, but a wizard approaches or intervenes. If I had to write a pitch for it, that's what I would say. Sounds a little bit cooler than what's actually here. You could work. Anyway, you get what I'm trying to say. Bernadine, a man with true magical powers scanning the globe to obliterate all the imposters. See, that sounds cool. Although, obliterate, I don't know. Obliterate, like destroy their careers, or just actually murder all the imposters? Fong, that's true, Jamal. The conflict needs to come earlier in the story. Yes, it does. Also, Fong says we have two characters who are opposite each other in technical skills. If the conflict is expanded, then we can relate empathetically to the characters. Absolutely. Philip, the story of the last true magician who would rather spend his days humiliating street performers than preserving the ancient knowledge to which he is entrusted. It's pretty good too, actually. Fong, what's the motivation of these characters? Well, we don't know. We have no clue. A street performer is probably money, I guess. He's out there trying to make a living. But this lemon guy, the main character, we know nothing about. And the story doesn't really work if you switch around the protagonists. Because you'd just be left wondering why this lemon guy was doing things. What did he says something? If you're so great, then why are you on this street every Tuesday? That's Lemon speaking. To himself. So maybe this is an interesting line, because if he's stepping up, let's just say that he's some kind of wizard. Like, these are the thoughts he's having to himself. If you're so great, why are you on the street every Tuesday? It sounds like something that another street performer would think. If he was a real magician or a real wizard or something, like, he'd be having thoughts about, if you're so great, why can't you, I don't know, make a card disappear or something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he would say something that was relevant to, like, real magic. But this feels like the kind of thing that a street performer would think. Although Lemon is not a street performer, as far as we can tell. Bernadine, obliterate their self-esteem and retire their deck of cards. I like that. Retire their deck of cards. Yeah. It's like, for like a villain, it's like the least evil villain thing ever. For like a genuine like evil wizard. I just want to make them feel really bad about themselves and never play with their cards again. For someone that can make things disappear and reappear. But, yeah. All right. So, we talked about, what was the objective of the story? We don't really know. Maybe the twist. Maybe that was the whole point of the story, was to add that twist at the end. But we can't say for certain, because Nova isn't here. We discussed there's too much reliance on instructional imagery. It's an issue. How are we supposed to feel? We don't really know. We just kind of think Lemon's a dick, and the other guy, he's just sucks to suck. Characters have no depth or transformation. Again, we've already kind of talked about this. The characters, they might have interesting, like, first, how do I put this? Like, they don't have, they're very flat characters, even if what they're saying is a little bit more interesting than your traditional flat character. I would say Vizzini has a bit of a style to the way he speaks. It's interesting, actually. Lemon is more flat, but he's such a dick the whole time that it kind of makes it a little bit more interesting than if he was just saying non-confrontational things. But there's certainly no transformation in the characters, and I mean, you could challenge me on this, and if you feel differently, please say it in the chat. But I really think that for a short story to be complete, one or all characters need to have transformed or developed in some way. I don't think a story functions without character development. But if you think I'm wrong about that, please argue with me. And then the last point I sort of have here, what has the reader learned? What questions have been created/answered? So, what have we learned? We learned that Lemon might be a magician. And we learned that the Vizzini guy, I mean, he might not even suck at magic. Right? Lemon might have just, like, snapped his cards away and screwed up his act. So he might actually be a dope-ass magician, but Lemon sabotaged him. So, don't really know. We haven't learned anything about that. It's just created more questions. The only question that might have been created and answered is this magic within Lemon. The more we talk about it, the more I feel like he is actually a magical sort of character, but we're not definite. You don't have to be definite, I guess, but it feels like there's, I don't know, maybe more questions than answers in this story, and I don't know. Jamal says every good story needs character development. You're right about that. Okay, at least someone agrees with me. I'll say some stuff that I'm certain on, but I'm not gonna ever tell you guys something that I'm not totally 100% certain on and act like I'm sure. Because there's lots of stuff I'm not sure about. That's pretty much everything I got, though. Anyone else have anything else they want to inject into the discussion? Is there anything else that you felt was important about this that we should talk about as writers, that we should be aware of in our own stories, whether, negative or positive to the story. Also, couple more people here from the last time. So I don't know if you know, but I'm trying something a little bit different with these sessions. Where instead of going through things line by line like we were before, I'm just trying an open discussion thing where we read the story together and we just talk about it. Because I feel like it might be more fun to do that. Going line by line, I mean, I don't mind doing it. I enjoy doing it, but it drags on for a very, very long time. I mean, it takes 2 and 3 hours to do a story that way, and I think people sometimes get bored. So I don't know. Did you like this? Do you find you learn from it? Because personally, if we went through this line by line, I think it would have taken twice as long to get the same amount of relevant information as writers. Nova misses out on a bit, but I'm still going to send her line by line edits. By the way, Philip, I still owe you line by line edits. I will have it to you tomorrow. I'm like 3/4 of the way done. I just got really busy the past couple days, but they are going to be coming your way. I'm going to just pause this for a second because an email came into me. That's why I was laughing earlier. Oh man, so funny. Okay. Jamal says I like this approach. That's funny, Jamal, because you seem like you wanted to stick to the line by line last time. If I've won you over, I'm glad, because I personally think it makes more sense to do it the way we're doing it now. Huh. I like the format. I think the group can add comments in certain lines that stand out to them. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have something that you want to say specifically about a line, I can like put it in here, and Nova will still get the edited version that we put our own notes into. So, Jesus Christ, I had to shovel dinner into my face before we started, and I'm getting a little burpy. Cool. Well, I'm glad people like this approach. I think it's more fun. What else? Do we want to wrap it up? Or is there anything else we want to talk about? I did want the line by line edits, but this approach is much faster and more engaging for people who aren't into copy editing. Yeah, Jamal, that's the way I feel too. I mean, it's fun to just discuss it. It's less work for me, I'll tell you that right away. But I don't really mind doing the work for the writing. I don't mind doing the proofreading, the editing, getting down and dirty with it. It doesn't bother me, and I'll still send it. But I just think the reason people would come to these discussions is because as a writer, they want to get better, they want to learn, and I think that in the open discussion, we discuss all the things that you need to know. There's grammatical things that we're missing out on. Let's talk about the grammar for a second, actually. This was something I meant to talk about that I forgot. There is an issue in this story with commas. I'm just looking through it now. There's quite a lot of incidents where the same sort of sentence structure is used quite a lot. Lemon noted the uncomfortable energy Vicini created. Another bad mark. Splitting the deck in half, the performer started again. Lemon grinned. This was his favorite part of any act he watched, the test of talent. Gathering up the cards back in a neat pile, Vicini cut the deck once more. That's actually a little bit better now that I'm looking a little more closely. I did feel it when I was reading the story on my own earlier this afternoon. I think that the structure of certain paragraphs sentences could use a little bit of a punch up to make it more interesting to read, as far as like a line by line thing. I thought, I just thought there was too many of these comma. The important factors were evident, though. The Great Vicini did not receive a passing grade. There's just too many of these sorts of lines. The man held up and turned over. The car's face, blah blah blah. It just, there's a lot of these. Performing his own flourishes, Lemon seemed to almost spread 2 extra hands. The impossible card handling. Vicini was awestruck. Haven't yet ever seen such cardistry. I'm trying to think of how you describe that sort of sentence. It's like taking the end of the sentence and putting it at the beginning. Having never seen such cardistry, Vicini was awestruck. Lemon seemed to almost spread 2 extra hands with the impossible card handling, performing his own flourishes. Maybe that's what's going on. It's like those kind of lines that you take the ending and you put at the beginning. You put like a comma into it. I don't know, but I thought there was too many of those lines. Funk says, I want it line by line too. I like the overall conversation too. Maybe it's best to ensure when writers submit, they provide the objective, aim, purpose, etc. That's a good idea, actually, Fong. I mean, when you submit your own writing, you could, tell me in the email like what you want. What do you want people to look at? What do you want? What do you want from the group? That would be totally fair. I wouldn't go above and beyond. I think aiming for about an hour worth of work as far as like the group is concerned is fair. I mean, I usually give 10-15 minutes for people to show up, and then 10-15 minutes to read the story, and then an hour of sort of actively working together on critiquing. And that's kind of where we stand right now, right? So at 8:30 my time would be an hour. So it's whatever you guys want to do. I just don't want people to be bored, and I want more people to be showing up. I mean, there's 5 of us right now. It's pretty low. And it seems like as time is going on, less people are coming. I mean, there were nights that 15, 20 people would show up. Now, not everyone would stick around the whole time, but that was at least what, showing up was. It's just weird, because more people are joining the group. We're almost at 400 people, but less and less people are actually showing up for the meeting, and I don't understand why people are in the group if they don't want to actually critique. I mean, anyone can send their own writing in, and actually we're getting low. Bernadine's story is Monday. Just Bernadine says, Actually, let me know right now if that works for you, Bernadine. But the plan is Bernadine's story for Monday, and then after that, we're out of writing. We got nothing left. So if anyone's got a story they want to send in so that we have something to do on Thursday, you're more than welcome. I'll put a post in the group sort of calling out for writing. If nobody sends in writing, if we don't have anything for Thursday, we'll still do a live show. We'll still hang out. We'll find something else to talk about. Jamal, maybe we should reduce the frequency we meet to only once a week. Well, the thing is, if we do it once a week, then it's got to be the same day every week. I do it twice a week because it gives more variety to the days that we critique so that different people can show up. Although that hasn't worked at all because it's the same people that show up every time. So whether it's Tuesday or Monday or Thursday, people still show up. But I still think it's worthwhile to have a couple days a week so that different people have the opportunity to show up. Like Eva was here last time and she said she can't show up today, but she'll probably be here next Monday. So I'd like to do twice a week, but if we don't have writing to work on, then maybe there's something else we can do together as a group. Just hang out, maybe talk, maybe we write together for an hour. I'd be open to that. Maybe people prepare questions that they just want to talk about as a group, and we can all contribute to the conversation. Jamal had a good idea about getting a few people in on the Discord. We could actually sit here and kind of talk as a group rather than just typing things out, me reading the questions, and then, me expanding on things. I'm okay, or I'm open to the Discord idea. I think it would be cool. Bernadine says that works. Yeah, I think twice a week is probably the way to do it. It's also more beneficial to the YouTube page or the YouTube channel because the more active a channel is, the more it gets promoted. And I really am hoping that YouTube will help us out with engagement as far as advertising the live stream and getting more people involved in the group and active in the work we're trying to accomplish. We can start working on our Hemingway book discussion. Yes! Yes! I'd love to do that. I would love to do that. The book has been sitting like on my windowsill. I've been looking at it every day thinking like, Jesus, I really want it. I've been just dying to read that book lately. I always read it like once a year. Bernadine, you bought it, didn't you? I think someone bought it. I think it's Bernadine. I could be wrong. Okay, Bernie did it. And Fong did too. Awesome. Okay. So quite a few people bought it, actually. All right, well, how would we do that? Would it make more sense to read the book like and discuss it like chapter by chapter, or would it make more sense to like read the book and then discuss it after we're done? And maybe we'll do chapter. And Jamal had it already. Wow, that's awesome. Oh man, I love this group. I wish more people were involved, but I still have a really good time doing this. Okay. Well, why don't we do... Let me just grab the book. Let me see. I think the chapters are pretty short. Funk says, I have to read the whole book to give me an idea, but we should break it up chapter by chapter. Well, I think probably like if everybody reads the book and then we discuss it, then we would discuss the book as a whole. But if we break it up chapter by chapter, then we can break down the discussion to chaptery conversations, and then at the end we can kind of discuss it as a whole. Yeah, like these. So chapter 1 is like a page, basically page and a half. Chapter 2. Yeah, I remember the chapters in this being really, really short. So it might be like, I don't know, could people read like 50 pages in a week? Like the first week we could do like chapter 9 ends on page 46 for myself. And the book realistically starts on page 3 anyway. So it's like 45 pages, 44 pages. Bernadine, I would like to read it all first and then go over chapter by chapter 2. Okay. I mean, we can do that. There would be a level of or, how do I put this? It would be beneficial to read the whole book and then start, sort of dissecting it from beginning to end. Because you can view things as a whole, right? There's things that happen at the end of the book that are relevant to the beginning and vice versa. So you would probably get more out of it that way. So if that's what you want to do, I'm just going to leave this kind of up to you guys because I could care less how we do it. I'll happily read the book. I'll happily talk about it. Um, Reading makes for better writers. We can incorporate a book club into the critique group. 50 pages a week is good for me. Yeah, it's not a bad idea to have. It's actually, yeah, we could. I like that idea. If we went chapter by chapter, it may go too long for the meeting. Well, we don't have to read like chapter, right, as a group. We would read it on our own and then just come down and discuss it. Like the first chapter we'd actually talk about quite a bit, because the first chapter is like, oh, it's just perfect. It's amazing. I love that first chapter. Well, we would just see what happens, right? We give ourselves about an hour, maybe an hour and a half at the most, and just talk about it, just see how much we get out. And if there's things we want to talk about the next week, then we can talk about the next week. What, is there a day for people that would work best in the week? I mean, we could do it on like a Thursday, next Thursday, if we don't have writing, but I kind of have a feeling somebody will send something. So what about like Sundays or like a Wednesday, something to add, I mean, I realize everybody here has lives and if we do it on a different day of the week, I'm already taking up 3 nights of your week, right? And I there's going to be a limit on how much people can offer to this group out of their personal lives. So pretty well any day works for me, because I love doing this shit. I write all the time. I read all the time. I'm just as happy sitting here hanging out with you guys as I would be just kind of doing my own thing. Unless I, hang out with friends or whatever. But Sunday only works for me for about an hour. I mean, that would be cool. Sunday evenings for an hour. Maybe Sunday afternoons. It's just nice to have a cup of tea and hang out. There's more here. I wrote that before you commented. We could dissect short stories as well, Jamal says. We absolutely could. Now, I'm not... This is going to make me sound kind of stupid because I'm doing all this work with you guys on short stories, but I'm not very good at dissecting professional short stories. I'm better with working with books, but I'm still happy to read short stories and read them with you. Dissect award-winning books. Well, Fong, I mean, don't be confused by a quote-unquote award-winning book. Just because something wins an award doesn't mean it's good. It really doesn't. In the same way that just because something's published doesn't mean it's excellent either. There's lots of shit that gets put on TV, that gets put in books. You're better off reading and studying the things that you enjoy. Because if you enjoy the story, there's clearly a reason for that, and you can learn from those books and infuse those techniques into your own writing to create writing that you love to read, right? That should always be your end goal as a writer. Should never be to write the book that gets sold, it's to write the book that you love reading. And if you're not doing it that way, you will fail as a writer. Sounds harsh, but it's the truth. Jamal, I love the snows of Kilimanjaro and hills like white elephants. Actually, the short story that I submitted to the master's review is inspired by hills like white elephants. And it was funny because someone called me out on it, and I was actually really impressed that they could tell. He was a David Hubert. I've talked about him a few times. He's a pretty well-established Canadian writer. He was helping me with that short story, and he totally called me out that this is very much like White Elephants, and I laughed because I was like, how did you fucking know? But it definitely was. Which Hemingway are we talking about? Ernest Hemingway, Philip. Fuang, ooh, I will add those books to my list amongst the 100 books I have. I prefer dissecting books. It's a great way to learn. Okay, if not award-winning, something that can help with self-expression. Well, I mean, like, don't, like, I still, stick to what I say, but David Hubert is a smart guy. I'm not surprised he called you out. I think Philip was talking about which novel we want to read. Oh, we're talking about A Farewell to Arms. Sorry. I when he asked me which Hemingway are we talking about, in my head I was like, come on, which one do you think? That makes more sense. Sorry, Philip. Sorry. Bernadine, I think you meant which book. Yes. My bad. So, do we want to do that? Do we want to aim for next Sunday and have 50 pages read? Although I'll say up to chapter 9. Be ready. Well, read all of chapter 8 and be on chapter 9 for next Sunday. God, I love this book. Margot. Not sure what you're talking about, Bernadine. Can't meet every Sunday because I'm in another critique group. Ooh. So my attendance will depend on timing. Well, I mean, what time would work for people? Sunday's pretty open for me, so this coming Sunday. Yeah, I mean, the plan would be like every Sunday, Fong. I mean, maybe there's a week that someone can't make it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't expect people to be. Like, let me just say this: I don't expect people to attend every single live show, right? I mean, it was a joke. Margaret was one of his great granddaughter's famous actor. Oh, really? I've never. Actually, I think maybe I have heard of that name. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I don't expect people to show up for every live show. People in this group have been doing it, and I feel like they've been going really far out of their way to be, in attendance for every show. And if you want to be here for every show, obviously you are more than welcome to do so. But I just never want people to feel like this is work, right? I just want it to be fun and relaxing. And some weeks you can't make it, some weeks you can, but it's all good. That's why I wish there was more people engaged, so that it would take some of the pressure off people to be here every week. Because, I mean, Jamal, Bernadine, Philip's been here pretty regularly. Fuang comes when she can, but she's definitely a common person in the group. And that's all of us that are here right now. Casey hasn't been here in a while, but he still interacts in the group. I mean, Nova, but Nova's job has changed, so we might not actually see much of Nova lately, or in the coming weeks. Reading is like having homework for the rest of your life. If you don't like either, you're in the wrong profession. It's true. It's a lot of work. I was writing today, actually. I hadn't written in, I don't know. I mean, I'd continuously tried to write, but I just kept getting frustrated because the whole quitting smoking thing. It's really hard to focus. But I was writing today, and I probably spent like 2 hours writing and I only got like 500 words out. So it's really hard. I'm someone who's been writing for like 10 years. I still struggle with it sometimes. Actually, most of the time. Bernadine says Pamela hasn't been here for a while. Yeah, she hasn't. She said something about tonight. I think she said that she couldn't be here, but she wishes she could be. Something to do. She was busy with something. I don't know. But time. Your Sunday's my Monday. That's right. Yes, because Fung's in Australia. So realistically, for it to work for Fung, we'd have to do it in the evening, kind of like we're doing it now. Are people okay with meeting in the evening, or Because the other option is we meet in the morning, and then fun could be, you know, basically her Sunday evening. I don't really mind meeting in the morning. I mean, I don't want to be up at like 9 in the morning, but if we did like, I don't know, 10 or 11 my time, it's not too bad. I'm just going to check the group real quick. That link I put to the live critique for this, it's just a picture of a blank screen and an empty chair. It's pretty quiet. Mornings aren't the worst. They aren't the worst. I have yoga at 11 a.m. but can meet earlier or after. Bernadine, sorry, what time is it for you right now? I think you're an hour off of me. I gotta blow my nose. What is your time zone? I mean, mine's Atlantic Daylight time. 7:46. No, you're an hour behind me, Bernadine. It's 8:46 for me right now. So you've got yoga at 12 my time. I mean, that could work. Could. But I'll be honest with you, if I don't want to do it too early, because if we set it for like 9 or 10, there's going to be days where I'm not going to be able to think very well. Right? I'm going to be just tired. I mean, some nights I get drunk. I'm in my mid-20s. People like to party sometimes, and I have rough mornings, and I never want to be the guy that doesn't show up to the group chat and all that stuff. Oh my god, I get so much spam mail, so much just junk. It's so annoying. Like, what kind of a piece of shit do you have to be to sit there and write emails to try and trick people into like giving your credit card and steal identities and all that shit? Like, what kind of a dickless fucking asshole do you have to be to spend your whole life doing that? I just think some people are so fucked up in this world. It makes me so mad. If you do it in the morning, it's my midnight. I'm happy with your afternoons. It's my if you do it in the morning, it's my midnight. I thought, yeah, I think that's. That's right, Bernadine. Let Lemon take them out. I don't think I'm gonna have to fix the chat thing, so the chat is like rolling up the live feed instead of just on the YouTube. Although I guess if somebody rewatches the YouTube video afterwards, it'll show the live replay of the chat. So I'll have to think about that. The time you started was good for me. If you're talking about this evening, I mean, we started at 7. 7, it seems to be fairly good. It definitely works for me. But it does make me wonder if, like, the reason... Hi, Cat. You sleeping? Hi. It makes me wonder if the reason people, like a lot of people aren't showing up is because of the time. Because I'm trying to think. The last time we did a show that wasn't at 7 o'clock, like, there's probably a lot more people that showed up. So, I mean, maybe the book reading, if everyone's okay with 7 o'clock, let's do 7 o'clock. Because we know the people that are here now are people that will probably show up every Sunday, or at least the vast majority of Sundays, which is really what we need. It's the critiquing sessions that maybe I need to find a different time for so that more people will show up. Oh, it's really hard to do this with people all over the world. Jamal, maybe you do a poll on time. Well, see, I've tried doing polls on time, but even like doing a poll on the days of the week, I find that not many people had an opinion. Like, let me just pull up. I think I might have deleted it. I have a tendency of deleting things in the group that are no longer relevant just to like keep things from getting all clogged up when I'm trying to actually tell people stuff. But let me just take a peek here. But I feel like almost 200 people saw the poll and maybe 15 people voted. And of those 15, like maybe 7 or 8 had chosen like the Mondays and Thursdays. It was the vast majority. But oh, here it is. Okay. So 12 people voted for Mondays and Thursdays. 5 voted for Wednesday and Sunday, and 2 for Saturday and Tuesday. So that's 19 votes out of 108 people that were reached. And I mean, of those people, it doesn't seem like anybody new has been showing up on a regular basis. So 7 year time works for me for book. All right. Well, then maybe we should just do 7 o'clock. 7 Atlantic Daylight Time on Sundays. It works for Fung as well. Oh, your Thursday at 6 to 7 p.m. start is great for me. Okay, well, yeah, that would be Friday for you. Yeah, and that's great. That's great. I mean, I'd like people to be here for Thursdays and Mondays and all that as well. I still gotta send my landlord my rent. Oh boy. Okay. Okay, so we're set. We're set. So this Sunday, I mean, bear in mind that's in 3 days. Can people read 50 pages in 3 days? I mean, I know you're capable of doing it, but people have lives, right? So, I mean, some of you guys probably have kids. All that stuff that I wouldn't want to deal with that you do have to deal with. So, is that something that's achievable for people, or would we rather start this not this Sunday but next Sunday and give ourselves a little bit more time to read the book up to chapter 9? Oh, I thought we were starting next Sunday. Yeah, and if that's what we want to do, that is what we can do. Oh, it's Easter this Sunday. Shit, yeah, that's not going to work. So we're going to have to do it not this Sunday, but the next Sunday. So let's see what the date is. Where is it? So the 11th. The 11th of April. Cat. Does that sound good, everyone? 11th of April on the Sunday at 7 Atlantic Daylight Time. And is there anything else we want to talk about this evening? Because we could probably wrap this up if there's nothing else we want to talk about. The cat's distracting me. Bernadine says perfect. Awesome. My cat, I don't know if anyone else has a cat. Do you find your cat stares at you like in a weird way? It's not a cute way, it's a weird way. And then yeah, like sometimes my cat will look at me and like say like they say I love you with their eyes when they do that like slow like eye close thing. But sometimes I'll be like working and then like turn my head and I realize my cat's just been staring at me for like 45 minutes. And it's not cute. It's just creepy. Can you put a post in the group about the book club? Yes, I definitely can. Great session. I love this group. So do I. No other comments to the story from my end. Okay. I mean, I think we've pretty well covered the story. Probably more questions than answers, but I think we've gone over everything that's important for us to know and for Nova to know. Although I really wish she could have been present for this. Hugs to your cat. Aw. My cat meowed right when you started talking to your cat. Really? Is my voice coming through your speakers? Cat, you wanna come say hi? Hey, you wanna come say hi? Yeah, you wanna say hi. She'll want to be in my lap when she's not welcome, but then you invite her up and she just wants to be anywhere else. Who's got a little belly? Who's got a belly? I've got a belly. Ever since I quit smoking, I've put on like 10 pounds, maybe 15. I don't own a scale and I don't want to. Have a great night, everybody. Wish Nova could be here too. Yeah, I do too. But that's what is the way that this group is going to work. Some nights people are going to be here, some nights they just can't, and life gets in the way. And with us all being in different time zones, it can be difficult. Little sweetheart, she is a sweetheart. She's the sweetest cat in the world. She's just kind of weird sometimes. Okay. Everybody make sure they're subscribed to the YouTube channel, the Writing Around group here on YouTube, just to make sure that when we go live, you get that notification. But other than that, let's wrap it for the night. If you have any questions or anything you want to reach out to me about, you can message me through the Facebook group, or you can email me directly at thewritingaroundfb@gmail.com. But other than that, I hope everybody has a wonderful night. Thank you so much for showing up. And as always, keep writing.